Link engaged.
Visit us at TeamSpeak.com.
Hello and welcome once again, folks. This is CatsPajamas here with Orb. We are broadcasting the TeamSpeak TL Open number 21. And thanks very much for everyone who has decided to tune in. These are the finals. Game number 4 between TSLHeart spawning as our blue Terran here in the top right-hand corner of EG.IdrA. His opponent in the bottom left-hand corner is Evil Genius's EG.IdrA spawning as our green Zerg. And TSLHeart once again decides he can't stay on one particular color, switching back to blue this time.
Really likes, exploring all different colors of the rainbow. So can't deny him that. Perhaps is an artist. I don't know. Maybe he's a painter. Maybe he just likes all these different colors. He's gonna mix them together. Who knows? Maybe there's some kind of subliminal message, even like the first letter of each color or something. I don't know. I think I'm probably reading too far into it. In any case, we're going to be at cross positions here on EG.IdrA, and pretty much every game so far has been on cross positions. In fact, the only one that wasn't was a 2-player map on Xel'Naga Caverns. So EG.IdrA, I feel like, keeps getting lucky with these spawn positions. Obviously, it would be much more difficult to deal with any type of early aggression from Heart if he was, for example, at the top left position. But at these cross positions, that will give EG.IdrA a pretty good opportunity to be able to actually come back in this series and maybe give us a 5th game.
Yeah, going to be, in contrast to what we saw before with the T-Gun game at TSLHeart, where we were talking about the positional imbalance. This is a rotationally symmetrical map, and then sieging up underneath that that sweet spot is oh so good. But as you were hinting at before, going to be a lot harder for Hart to try and pull that off. But he is doing something very familiar to us, dropping down the double 11 racks right away, despite the fact that they are cross positions. He's going to try and put on some nice early pressure.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know, since he hasn't scouted yet, he doesn't know EG.IdrA's at cross positions, so he's hoping right now that they are not going to be at cross positions. There was one little minor thing. He did go for an 11-11 rack, but he actually sent out his second SCV a little bit late there, so actually had 50 minerals around the time that second barracks actually got thrown down, so could have gone for a 12 racks, and just had a little bit of a more economically focused game there. So just a little minor thing to point out. Maybe want to send out that second SCV just a little bit earlier next time, but look at that. EG.IdrA going straight for the spawning pool after his hatchery, not going for a gas first this time, so maybe he will actually be prepared. They are at cross position, so it's certainly going to be a lot easier than on that game on Shattered Temple.
And let's see, EG.IdrA going to make his way out with his first scout now. He does have his Overlord heading over to the right-hand side, but not going to find anything. And TSLHeart has not seen his opponent. He's actually going to scout him last, but he'll start sending Marines out here momentarily. However, EG.IdrA's already started his spawning pool. In fact, it's almost finished, so I don't think he's going to take a ton of damage from this. I think he's going to be pretty well prepared. TSLHeart, though, certainly has the micro ability to put on some damage, even when his little shenanigans are known. SCVs don't find anything at the top left or at the bottom right, so now the Marines are starting to make their way down across the map. Actually, I'm not sure where his Marines are going. It looks like they want to maybe pick off this Overlord down here at the bottom right, not going after that base. Or does TSLHeart think that his opponent is there? I'm a little confused.
I am not even sure. I think maybe he thought his opponent was there. It's definitely not a good idea to go for this Overlord. EG.IdrA can just send it over the cliff, and you will not be able to get vision of it, so kind of a waste of time for these Marines. Wow. I do want to point out one minor thing that EG.IdrA did that was so smart there. When he scouted the top left base and saw there was no wall off at the bottom right, he knew he was at cross positions. So without even having scouted out that Heart was doing a 2-racks, he actually made an additional drone before he started making lings. So clearly has his build extremely well practiced and knows, okay, if I'm at cross positions on Tal'Darim, that does give me time to get one more drone out before I start making lings against a 2-racks. So it's always nice to see those very crisp builds from these players, very good decisions like that. Heart has actually stopped making Marines right now to get that command center up and running, so it looks like once he realized he was at cross positions, he just decided that he wouldn't actually be able to be aggressive with this 2-racks until at least a little bit later, so maybe he's going to come forward and try to be aggressive with a larger Marine count here, but delaying it that much certainly will give EG.IdrA the time he needs to perhaps make a defense. Already has one spawn crawler and a couple of links here, so it should be fine.
Well, unless EG.IdrA decides to go into, well, he's not pressured me by this point, so I'm going to go ahead and drone up, and he could fall prey to a little bit later timing attack. But TSLHeart is making his way across. He is committed to a little bit of damage here. He's going to send some Marines down around the southern route. I guess he wants to check. No, actually now taking back all of his Marines and sending them down there to the third expansion, or where the third expansion will be. But he's not going to see anything, and once again, going to give time to EG.IdrA to go ahead and prepare a little bit. 4 more links coming out. Those Marines are about ready to make their way up here, so here it goes. Is EG.IdrA going to be able to defend? There's the question. Looks like TSLHeart may just be running by. I think he is. Wants to try and get into the main and do a little bit of economic damage. He has already taken out a couple of lings, and I think he's going to be able to take out the rest of those and maybe a queen or two with this.
A really nice kiting micro there, just continued to move back and forth. Unfortunately, EG.IdrA did not have his creep spread set up just yet. So those Queens were not actually able to catch up to those Marines, and they're actually doing quite a bit of damage, killing off a couple drones, losing a lot of mining time for EG.IdrA right now. He definitely seems like he's a little bit unprepared. Interestingly enough, when he sent those Marines down to the bottom, it actually did cause EG.IdrA to send some of his Zerglings away. And, oh, he will clean up the rest of that attack. But what I was saying is he actually sent a couple of his Lings to go scout out Heart's base. So if Heart had actually just attacked up the main ramp instead of going around to the bottom, EG.IdRA's Lings would have been in position. They would have been able to defend a little bit easier, so it actually ended up being a nice move for Heart. Since EG.IdrA's units were actually out of position, he was able to get a couple drones there, as we can see, 2 drone kills totaled. But it is 34 drones to 26 SCVs right now, so EG.IdrA definitely has a nice little drone lead, and he's rushing to a lair. Look at that lair, already halfway done at this point. And he's getting an Evo chamber and immediately getting quad gas, so I'm very interested to see. Is he just going to like ridiculously quickly rush up to infestors here? What is he going to be using all this gas in this quick lair for?
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm really curious about what TSLHeart is doing as well. It looks like he loves his early add-ons. I mean, he doesn't take bare barracks on there for any length of time. He immediately puts add-ons on. We do have the double factories in place, so a good, strong Blue Flame Hellion attack is going to come out. Actually, a little bit shocked he didn't just go ahead and put down a reactor right away on the second factory. It seems to be his motto, but nonetheless, we have a few Zerglings making their way up for EG.IdrA, probably just going to be used for map control purposes for a little while, because he won't be able to make his way in and do any damage against what TSLHeart already has prepared. And there's your answer on the gas question. We do actually have a Spire coming up.
Alright, so EG.IdrA going to rush up to Spire. Definitely a good move on a map like this, where mobility is so important because you are so far away from your opponent. Also, the bases are a little bit disjointed, so it can be pretty easy to send mutas around and be aggressive on different places. It can be hard for a Terran player to have all the Marines in all these different places at once if they don't have turrets already set up, and the speed of that lair, the speed of that Spire, might mean that it's possible Heart won't be defended properly here, as certainly I would not be expecting mutas to be coming out that quickly. He is going to add on that starport as well, so I was actually waiting to see that. I was hoping that he'd put it down a little bit earlier, because on this map, Blue Flame Hellion drop would of course be much more effective than just Blue Flame Hellions trying to run to the natural where that spine is. So hopefully we'll start to get some medevacs out from that starport and maybe go for some Blue Flame Hellion drops, but he's also got to be careful, because once those mutas are out, they will be able to deny drops very effectively.
Yeah, we already have an engineering bay coming up for TSLHeart as well, though, so we should be able to have a turret infrastructure in place to deal with a good number of mutas even at this point in the game. Looks like he is going to move out with his Hellions, though, and he should be able to take out quite a few Zerglings. EG.IdrA only has the one spine crawler down as far as I can see. There's the scan, and we'll see if this prompts Heart to move in or not. EG.IdrA pulling back all of his Lings and Banelings to the back there so that he doesn't get a lot of them roasted at first, but it looks like Heart is going to go after this hatchery and force those Lings out of position in a bit.
Yeah, he's putting a bunch of pressure on. This is not great for EG.IdrA. He doesn't have the creep spread over there, and engaging on into Blue Flame Hellions with pure Zergling Baneling, where you don't have creep, is going to be a really bad move. At least if you have creep, you can sometimes get the surround, although you are going to lose a lot of Zerglings in the process. Right now, he's in a bit of trouble, but he's just waiting for those mutas to pop. 4 mutas about to pop, and he's already got a couple out, so we'll be able to deny that. But look at that, Heart actually so smart. I guess he just knew that muta timing, immediately moved back with those Hellions right as the mutas were about to pop out. I'm looking around, did he get a scan on that Spire? No, he did not. But he's just so smart, getting that read, realizes that with only Zerglings and Banelings, it's probably going to be mutas, and thus already has turrets on the way to defend.
Yep, that first couple of turrets are about to finish themselves up. One done in the natural expansion, and those Hellions are actually turning themselves around. This is pretty cute because it's going to allow him to get the turret infrastructure in place. However, some Zerglings are already there. They do catch most of those Hellions, just 2 Hellions remaining now, but it did delay those Mutalisks long enough for him to get that turret infrastructure in place.
He also killed a very large number of Zerglings, which of course EG.IdrA doesn't really want to have happening right now. He does kind of have to keep a certain amount of units ready, almost like as a buffer in case TSLHeart just tries to go for an attack, just tries to move out and abandon defending his main base. So you always have to be cognizant of that, and losing those links not going to be helpful. But nice turret placement from Heart, and Marine placement as well is going to deny any aggression here from EG.IdrA. So he's found that he's not really able to do much harassment, but that's not that big of a deal. Obviously, it's not ideal. But as a Zerg player, what you're really trying to do is contain that Terran player and keep them in their base, defending against the mutas while you take your additional bases, basically take the map. So as long as EG.IdrA can do that, he'll be in a good position. But it looks like Heart is immediately going to go forward, take out the destructible rocks, and I do expect him to just move out for an attack. He does have +1 and combat shields finishing right now, so he's probably just going to take out these destructible rocks so he can take a third while he attacks, and we'll probably move forward for a big cross-map push here.
Yeah, certainly. And EG.IdrA, he already is going to his 4th as well and moving to an infestation pit. So we see his tech getting in place, and this is something similar to what he was doing even against EG.IdrA back in the semifinals of what we were seeing. So moving up to that very, very heavy tech 4-base stage. Looks like Heart, on the other hand, he is going to make his way out to the middle of the map. These mutas are just keeping the units at bay for a little while, but I don't know, man. This is certainly going to be very, very dicey. This engagement coming up is going to be make or break for EG.IdrA. It looks like he wants to pick off a couple of medevacs, does manage to do so. TSLHeart going to make his way out onto creep and start denying tumors here in just a second. This is really going to come down to positioning, though. If EG.IdrA can get off those flanks that you've been talking about this entire time, then he should be in a fine position, but otherwise, with good placement, Heart has the ability to neutralize this entire force.
Yeah, if he moves in all from one angle again, he could be in a lot of trouble right now. Those tanks in the back are going to support those Marines so well. He really, really needs, like you said, a flank to be able to do this. EG.IdrA just trying to delay as long as possible right now, perhaps waiting to see if, yeah, and Heart actually unsieges all of his tanks at the same time.
Oh, no!
A big mistake, and here comes EG.IdrA with the engagement. Oh, no, this is terrible for Heart. That being said, the Banelings aren't actually quite able to get to the Marines, so the Marines are kiting very well, but all the tanks are going to go down. There are enough mutas, Zerglings, and Banelings to just take out these Marines by themselves, and this game is looking fantastic for EG.IdrA thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. That was terrible for Heart. Terrible for Heart, and these mutas are going to be able to clean up everything else. We'll see what he can reproduce to try and come back in this game, because Heart is on the ropes, and it doesn't matter. He is going to GG.
Wow.
So EG.IdrA has taken game number 4.
And we're going to be moving into game 5 in a best of 5. Oh, so exciting. Going to be 2-2. That game came down to patience. That's really what it was all about. EG.IdrA was doing exactly what he needed to with those mutas. As Heart moved out with that attack, all he did was he kept moving in over and over, picking off medevacs, picking off anything he can. He kept Heart delayed. That's all he wanted to do, delay that attack as long as possible while his 4-base economy got up and running, got as many units as possible. He did just that, and then he got super lucky. Heart, unfortunately, with that patience, got really impatient, unsieged all of his tanks at once. You can't do that. You just have to leapfrog them, do them 1 or 2 at a time. If you unsiege all your tanks like that, it's kind of just asking to be punished. The only way you're not going to be punished is if the Zerg player doesn't see you doing it. Any Zerg that sees a Terran unsiege all their tanks is going to attack like that. So then it ended up not even mattering that EG.IdrA didn't have good positioning, with those tanks unsieged. He didn't really have any way to deal with those Banelings other than continuously running his Marines away forever. That left all his tanks to die, and eventually the Marines got cleaned up as well. And you just can't come back from that, especially when EG.IdrA still had 20 mutas left over at the end of that engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I really think with good siege tank positioning that Heart, with control of the Xel'Naga Tower that was right outside the creep, and with a couple of good scans and 9 creep tumors, was going to be able to push in and do some significant damage. At the very least, he was going to cause EG.IdrA to overcommit while he established his 3rd and got some pretty decent tech going. So, I don't know. I mean, I thought Heart, maybe he wouldn't have had the game, but he certainly would have been in it, and it certainly would have been a much longer macro game had he kept his tank siege there and been able to take that engagement a little bit more favorably. But nonetheless, guys, we are going to go into game number 5 of this best of 5. It is going to be on Shakura's Plateau, so we'll be back after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere.